He broke down my bathroom door while I was naked. That's the first thing Victoria Steele, the city's most powerful 30-year-old CEO, says to describe her fateful encounter with Daniel Hayes, a 32-year-old single plumber. From an embarrassing accident to an unexpected relationship, this story will make you believe that sometimes love comes from the most chaotic moments. Watch until the end, and comment where you're watching to let me know how far this story has come. Now, let's begin. The pipe burst at exactly 2:47 p.m. on a Thursday, and Daniel Hayes knew he had about 90 seconds before the situation went from bad to catastrophic. He was already elbow deep in the crawl space beneath the master bathroom when he heard it, that telltale groan of old copper finally giving up the ghost. Not the slow drip he'd been chasing for the past hour. This was the sound of a full structural failure, the kind that turned luxury homes into indoor swimming pools. "Damn it," he muttered, yanking his arm free and scrambling backward. His tool belt caught on a floor joist. He jerked it loose, already mentally calculating the damage. The main shutoff was in the garage, a good 40 feet and 2 flights of stairs away. No time. The bathroom shutoff, then, had to be. Daniel pulled himself up through the access panel, knees protesting. He wasn't 25 anymore, and his body liked to remind him of that fact. The bathroom was empty, thank God, all white marble and gold fixtures that probably cost more than his truck. He spotted the shutoff valve beneath the sink and dove for it. Stuck. Of course it was stuck. When was anything ever easy? He grabbed the adjustable wrench from his belt, fitted it over the valve, and threw his weight into it. The metal groaned. Behind the wall, he could hear water hammering against weakened joints, pressure building. 10 seconds, maybe 15 before the wall exploded. Not literally, but close enough. Water erupted from a seam near the ceiling, a pressurized jet that hit the opposite wall with enough force to crack the decorative tile. Daniel swore and cranked the valve harder, muscles straining. It gave, finally, with a shriek of corroded metal, but the damage was done. Water poured down the wall, pooling on the floor, racing toward the hallway. And he heard it then, the shower running in the adjacent bathroom. Someone was home. His client hadn't mentioned anyone being home. The house had been silent when he'd arrived, empty except for the echo of his boots on hardwood. But there it was, unmistakable. The rush of water, the faint sound of movement. The water was spreading fast now, a miniature flood creeping under the door that connected the two bathrooms. Daniel looked at it, looked at the destroyed wall, looked at his wrench, and made a decision he'd probably regret. He crossed the flooded bathroom in 3 strides and tried the connecting door. Locked. "Hell!" He raised his voice. "Hey, whoever's in there, you need to get out, now!" No response. The shower kept running. The water was ankle deep now, still pouring from the broken pipe despite the closed valve. There was still pressure in the line, bleeding out. It would reach the electrical outlets in another minute, maybe less. Daniel didn't think. He stepped back and drove his shoulder into the door. The frame splintered. The door flew inward, and Daniel stumbled into a cloud of steam, his boots skidding on wet tile, to find himself face to face with a woman who was very much not dressed, very much not expecting company, and very much about to start screaming. She didn't scream. That was the first thing that struck him, even as he threw up his hands and spun around so fast he nearly fell. She didn't scream. There was a sharp intake of breath, a beat of shocked silence, and then, "What the hell are you doing?" Her voice was cold, controlled, the kind of control that came from someone used to being in charge even when caught off guard, even when caught naked in her own shower by a stranger who'd just broken down her door. "Pipe burst," Daniel said to the wall, his face burning. "Main bathroom. Water's flooding. You need to get out of there. I can see the water." "Yeah, well, it's getting worse. And it's heading for the outlets, so unless you want to get electrocuted, you should maybe—" "Turn around." "What?" "Turn around. I need to get past you, and I'm not doing it while you're facing the wall like a child in timeout." Daniel turned slowly, eyes fixed firmly on the ceiling. She was wrapped in a towel now. He caught that much in his peripheral vision, but he wasn't about to risk looking directly at her. This was already the most mortifying moment of his professional career. No need to make it worse. She moved past him, close enough that he caught the scent of expensive shampoo, and disappeared through the broken door into the other bathroom. Daniel followed, carefully, still not looking. "How bad is it?" she asked. He risked a glance. She was standing in the doorway surveying the damage, and he got his first real look at her. 30, maybe 31. Tall, even barefoot, dark hair plastered to her shoulders, and eyes that were currently taking in the destroyed wall, the flooded floor, the puddles spreading into the bedroom, with the kind of clinical assessment usually reserved for crime scenes. Bad, Daniel admitted. The pipe's old, probably original to the house. It's been corroded for a while, and the pressure finally, it just gave out. I shut off the valve, but there's still residual water in the line. It'll stop in a minute. And the wall? Needs to be replaced, the tile too, and probably the subfloor depending on how long the water sits. She was quiet for a moment, still staring at the damage. Then, "You broke my door." "Yeah, I did. I'm sorry about that, but—" "The water was about to reach the electrical, you said." "Yes." "So you broke the door to warn me." "To get you out, yeah." Another pause. She turned to look at him, really look at him, and Daniel felt pinned under that gaze. It wasn't angry exactly, more assessing, like she was solving a problem and he was part of the equation. "You're the plumber," she said finally. "Daniel Hayes, yes, you're—" He stopped because he'd been about to say Mrs. Whitfield, which was the name on the work order, but this woman didn't look like any Mrs. Whitfield he'd imagined. Too young, too sharp. "Victoria Steele," she said. "I own the house. Whitfield is my lawyer. He set up the appointment." "Right, okay." Daniel gestured at the mess. "Look, I know this isn't ideal, but I need to clean this up before it gets into the bedroom. Do you have towels? Mops? Linen closet? Hallway?" "Great. And you should you might want to—" He gestured vaguely at her towel. One eyebrow rose. "Get dressed?" "Yeah, that." "I'm aware." But she didn't move. She was still watching him, that same calculating look, and it was starting to make Daniel nervous. "You work fast." "It's kind of necessary in this line of work." "And you don't panic." "Panicking doesn't fix pipes." "No," she agreed. "I suppose it doesn't." She finally turned away, heading toward what he assumed was the bedroom. "Linen closet is the second door on the left. Clean up what you can. I'll be down in a few minutes." Daniel let out a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. "Yes, ma'am." "Don't call me ma'am. I'm 30, not 70. "Sorry, Miss Steele." "Victoria's fine." She paused in the bedroom doorway, glancing back. "And Daniel?" "Yeah?" "Next time you need to break down a door to save someone's life, maybe announce yourself first." "Noted." She almost smiled. Almost. Then she was gone, and Daniel was alone with the flood and the wreckage and the creeping realization that he'd just had the strangest, most awkward introduction of his entire life. He found the towels and got to work. By the time Victoria came downstairs, dressed in dark jeans and a crisp white shirt that probably cost more than Daniel's monthly rent, he'd managed to soak up most of the water and contain the damage to the bathroom. The broken pipe was capped, the wall was a lost cause but stable, and he'd even swept up the shattered tile. She stood in the doorway, arms crossed, surveying his work. "Better. It's temporary. You're going to need a contractor to fix the wall properly, and I'd recommend replacing all the pipes in this section while they're at it. The rest of the copper is probably just as corroded." "How much?" Daniel gave her a number. She didn't flinch. "And how long?" "For the pipes? I can do it in 2 days, maybe 3. The wall work, that's not my area. You'd need to call someone else for that." She nodded slowly, thinking. "Can you start tomorrow? I've got another job in the morning, but I can be here by noon." "That works?" She pulled out her phone, tapped something, and his own phone buzzed in his pocket. "I just sent you my number. Text me when you're on your way." "Will do." Daniel started packing up his tools. "Again, I'm really sorry about the door, and the whole situation." "You did what you had to do." Her voice was matter-of-fact. No embarrassment, no lingering awkwardness. Like she'd already filed the incident away and moved on. "I appreciate the quick thinking. Just doing my job. Most people would have hesitated. Most people don't deal with burst pipes for a living." That almost smile again. "I suppose not." Daniel hefted his toolbox and stood. Victoria walked him to the front door, and he couldn't shake the feeling that she was still studying him, still solving some equation he wasn't privy to. "Tomorrow at noon," she said as he stepped outside. "Tomorrow at noon," he confirmed. The door closed behind him, and Daniel walked to his truck, loaded his tools into the back, and sat in the driver's seat for a solid minute, trying to process what had just happened. He'd broken into a bathroom. He'd seen his client naked. He'd flooded a luxury home and destroyed a wall and somehow still walked away with a job. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Thank you for not letting me get electrocuted. See you tomorrow." V. Daniel stared at it, then typed back, "Part of the service." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "Then I'll leave a tip." "Oh, but..." He laughed despite himself, shaking his head as he started the truck. This job was going to be interesting. The house was quiet when Daniel got home, which meant Lily was either doing homework or had her nose buried in a book. He found her in the living room, sprawled on the couch with a beaten-up paperback that she'd read at least 3 times already. "Hey, kiddo." She looked up, grinning. "Hey, Dad. How was work?" "Weird." "Weird how?" Daniel dropped onto the couch beside her. "I broke a door." "On purpose?" "Kind of. There was a flood and I had to get someone out of the bathroom before they got hurt." Lily's eyes went wide. "Were they okay?" "Yeah, they're fine, just startled." He ruffled her hair. "What about you? Homework done?" "Most of it. I've got a math worksheet left, but it's easy. You want help?" "Nah, I got it." She closed her book, studying him. "You look tired." "Long day, but I've got another job tomorrow, so it'll be a long week." "Same place?" "Yep, fixing pipes." He stretched, joints popping. "You're still good to stay at Aunt Marie's tomorrow night, right?" Lily nodded. "She said we're making cookies." Of course she did. His sister had never met a baking project she didn't love. "All right, let me change, and then I'll start dinner." "Can we have spaghetti?" "We had spaghetti 2 days ago." "So? It's good." Daniel laughed. "Fine, spaghetti it is." He left her on the couch and headed upstairs, peeling off his work clothes and tossing them in the hamper. In the shower, his own shower, in his own house, with no bursting pipes or awkward encounters, he let himself think about Victoria Steele. She wasn't what he'd expected. Most of his clients were either hovering, anxious homeowners who needed constant reassurance, or wealthy, absentee landlords who treated him like part of the furniture. Victoria was neither. She was calm under pressure, unfazed by chaos, and she looked at him like she was trying to figure out how he worked. It was unsettling and oddly compelling. Daniel turned off the water, dried off, and pulled on clean clothes. Downstairs, he found Lily already pulling out the pasta pot, the box of spaghetti on the counter. "You're eager," he said. "I'm hungry." "Fair enough." They moved around each other easily, a rhythm built over years of shared meals and small spaces. Lily set the table while Daniel boiled water and heated sauce. By the time they sat down to eat, the sun was setting, casting golden light through the kitchen window. "Dad?" "Yeah?" "Are you happy?" The question caught him off guard. He looked at his daughter, 10 years old, too smart for her own good, and far too perceptive. "What makes you ask that?" She shrugged, twirling pasta on her fork. "I don't know. You just seem, I don't know, different lately." "Different how?" "Less tired, maybe?" "I don't know. Forget it." But Daniel didn't forget it. He thought about it through dinner, through Lily's math homework, through the evening routine of dishes and showers and bedtime stories. And when he finally collapsed into his own bed, staring at the ceiling in the dark, he wondered if she was right. Was he happy? He had his daughter. He had his work. He had a roof over their heads and food on the table and a life that, while not glamorous, was stable. Safe. But happy? He didn't know. His phone buzzed on the nightstand. Another text from Victoria. "Contractor's coming at 10 a.m. to assess the wall. You'll overlap with him when you arrive." Daniel typed back, "No problem. I'll stay out of his way. He's loud. Fair warning. I work with power tools. I'll manage." A pause, then, "Good night, Daniel." "Good night, Victoria." He set the phone down and closed his eyes. Tomorrow would be another long day. Another job. Another step forward in the steady, predictable rhythm of his life. Except something about this job felt different. He just couldn't put his finger on why. 1. Daniel arrived at Victoria's house at 11:57 a.m., 3 minutes ahead of schedule. The contractor's truck was already in the driveway. a massive white pickup with a logo plastered across the side. Through the open front door, Daniel could hear voices, one of them bellowing loud enough to shake the windows. He grabbed his toolbox and headed inside. The contractor was exactly what Daniel expected. Mid-50s, barrel-chested, with a voice like a foghorn and opinions on everything. He was currently holding court in the destroyed bathroom, gesturing at the wall while Victoria stood nearby, arms crossed, listening with the patience of a saint. And I'm telling you, Ms. Steele, this is a full-gut job. You can't just patch this up and call it good. The water damage goes deeper than you think. Mold, rot, the whole 9 yards. You're looking at 2 weeks minimum, probably 3, and that's if we don't find any other surprises. I understand, Victoria said evenly. And the cost? I understand, she repeated, firmer this time. Send me the estimate by end of day. I'll review it tonight. The contractor opened his mouth, thought better of it, and nodded. Yes, ma'am, I'll get it to you. He lumbered past Daniel on his way out, sparing him a brief nod. The front door slammed, and then it was just Daniel and Victoria in the sudden quiet. He seems enthusiastic, Daniel said. He's thorough. I'll give him that. She gestured to the bathroom. Your turn. Daniel set down his toolbox and got to work. The broken pipe was easy enough to remove, the corroded section cut away and replaced with new copper. He worked methodically, measuring twice, cutting once, testing the joints for leaks before moving on. Victoria didn't hover, but she didn't leave either. She sat on the edge of the tub, phone in hand, occasionally typing something, but mostly just watching him work. It should have been distracting. It wasn't. You do this every day? She asked after a while. Fix pipes? Yeah, pretty much. Do you like it? Daniel paused, adjusting the wrench. It's honest work. Pays the bills, keeps me busy. That's not an answer. It's the answer I've got. She tilted her head, considering. You don't strike me as someone who does things halfway. I don't have the luxury of halfway. I've got a kid to raise. How old? 10. Her name's Lily. Just the two of you? Yeah. He tightened the joint, tested it, moved to the next section. Her mom's not in the picture, hasn't been for a while. I'm sorry. Don't be. We're doing fine. He glanced at her. What about you? Do you like what you do? I run a consulting firm, Decision Sciences. We help companies optimize their processes, mitigate risk, improve outcomes. Sounds complicated. It is, but I like complicated. She smiled faintly. I like problems that don't have obvious solutions. So you're a professional problem solver. Something like that. Then we're in the same business, Daniel said. Just different problems. She laughed, an actual laugh, not the polite chuckle most clients gave him. I suppose we are. They fell into a comfortable silence after that. Daniel worked, Victoria watched, and somewhere in the rhythm of it, the awkwardness of yesterday faded. By the time he finished the first section of pipe, it felt almost easy, natural. You're good at this, Victoria said eventually. I've had practice. No, I mean, you don't waste time. You don't second-guess yourself. You see the problem. You fix it. You move on. That's the job. Most people can't do that. They hesitate. They overthink. She leaned forward, elbows on her knees. Yesterday, when the pipe burst, you didn't hesitate. You didn't stop to weigh the options. You just acted. Because waiting would have made it worse. Exactly. She said it like he'd just proven a point in an argument. That's decision-making under pressure. It's rare. Daniel straightened, wiping his hands on a rag. You study this stuff? It's my job. I research how people make decisions, what influences them, why they choose one path over another. And you, she gestured at him. You're a textbook example of intuitive expertise. I have no idea what that means. It means you've done this so many times that you don't have to think about it anymore. Your brain recognizes the patterns, processes the information, and gives you the answer before you're consciously aware of it. Huh. Daniel considered that. So I'm running on autopilot? In a sense, but it's not mindless. It's the opposite. It's your mind working faster than you realize. He didn't know what to say to that, so he went back to work. But he could feel her still watching him, and the weight of that gaze was starting to mean something. By the time Daniel finished for the day, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. He packed up his tools, washed his hands in the kitchen sink, and found Victoria in her office, a sleek, modern space with floor-to-ceiling windows and a desk that looked like it cost more than his truck. "All done for today," he said from the doorway. She looked up from her laptop. "How's it going?" "Good. I'll be back tomorrow to finish the last section. After that, you're just waiting on the contractor." "Perfect." She closed the laptop, standing. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Do you ever take breaks?" Daniel blinked. "What?" "Breaks. Downtime. Time when you're not working or taking care of your daughter." "Not really. There's not much time for that." "When was the last time you had a conversation that wasn't about work or parenting?" He thought about it. "I don't know. A while." Victoria nodded like she'd expected that answer. "You should fix that." "Is that professional advice?" "Personal observation." She walked past him, heading for the front door. "You're good at what you do, Daniel, but everyone needs balance." "I'll keep that in mind." At the door, she paused. "Tomorrow, when you're done with the pipes, stay for coffee." It wasn't a question. It was an offer, maybe a challenge. "I don't want to keep you," Daniel said. "You won't. I'm offering." She met his eyes, steady and certain. "Unless you have somewhere else to be." He should say no. He should finish the job, collect his payment, and move on to the next client. That was how this worked. That was the professional thing to do. But he heard himself say, "Coffee sounds good." "Tomorrow, then." Daniel walked to his truck, loaded his tools, and sat in the driver's seat for the second time in 2 days, trying to figure out what the hell he was doing. His phone buzzed. A text from Lily. "Aunt Marie's teaching me how to make snickerdoodles. They're really good." He smiled and texted back, "Save me some. Only if you're nice to me. I'm always nice to you." Debatable. Daniel laughed and started the truck. Tomorrow, he'd finish the pipes. Tomorrow, he'd have coffee with a woman who looked at him like he was a puzzle worth solving. Tomorrow, he'd figure out what came next. But tonight, he drove home through the fading light, and for the first time in a long time, he felt something that wasn't exhaustion or routine or the steady grind of getting by. He felt curious. And that was enough. The next day came with rain, not the gentle kind, but the heavy, relentless type that turned the world gray and made everything harder. Daniel arrived at Victoria's house at noon exactly, soaked through despite the sprint from his truck to the covered porch. He rang the bell, shaking water from his jacket. Victoria opened the door in yoga pants and an oversized sweater, her hair pulled back in a loose ponytail. No makeup, no armor. She looked younger like this, less untouchable. "You're punctual," she said, stepping aside to let him in. "Habit." He pulled off his boots, leaving them on the mat. "Sorry about the puddles." "It's water. The house has seen worse." She handed him a towel. "Coffee's already brewing. I figured you'd want to warm up before you start." "You figured right." He dried his face and hands, then followed her to the kitchen. It was massive, all white marble and stainless steel, the kind of space that belonged in a magazine. Victoria poured 2 mugs of coffee, black, and slid one across the counter to him. "Sugar? Cream?" "Black's fine." She nodded, like he'd passed some small test. They stood there for a moment, drinking in silence, the rain drumming against the windows. "The contractor sent his estimate," Victoria said finally. 3 weeks, give or take. $15,000. Daniel whistled low. "That's steep." "It's thorough, and honestly, I'd rather pay more now than deal with mold later." She set down her mug. "How long do you need today?" 2 hours? Maybe 3? Depends on what I find when I open up the last section. Then I'll stay out of your way." But she didn't. Just like yesterday, she lingered, not hovering, just present. She worked on her laptop at the kitchen table while Daniel worked in the bathroom, the sounds of typing and rain filling the silence between them. It should have felt intrusive. It didn't. Around 1 o'clock, Daniel hit a snag. The last section of pipe wasn't just corroded, it was partially collapsed, crushed by years of pressure and poor installation. He needed a different fitting, one he didn't have in his truck. He found Victoria still at the kitchen table, surrounded by papers and charts that looked like they belonged in a statistics textbook. "I need to run to the supply store," he said. "Shouldn't take more than 40 minutes. She looked up. "What happened?" "Pipe's worse than I thought. I need a different part." "Want company?" The question surprised him. To a plumbing supply store? Why not? I've been staring at this data for 3 hours. I could use a break. She closed her laptop. Unless you'd rather go alone. Daniel hesitated, then shrugged. Sure. Why not? They took his truck. Victoria didn't even blink at the worn seats or the fast food wrappers stuffed in the console. She just climbed in, buckled up, and watched the rain streak across the windshield as Daniel pulled out of the driveway. How long have you been doing this? She asked. Plumbing. 14 years. Started as an apprentice right out of high school. You didn't want to go to college? Couldn't afford it. And honestly, I liked working with my hands. Still do. He glanced at her. What about you? You go to school for, decision sciences? Cognitive psychology, initially, then a PhD in behavioral economics. She said it matter-of-factly. No pride, no false modesty. Just fact. I wanted to understand why people make irrational choices. And do you? Sometimes. People are messy. They don't follow the models as cleanly as they should. Sounds frustrating. It's fascinating, she corrected. The messiness is where the interesting stuff happens. They lapsed into silence, the wipers beating a steady rhythm. Daniel found himself hyper-aware of her presence, the way she sat perfectly still, the faint scent of her shampoo, the fact that she didn't feel the need to fill every silence with chatter. The supply store was a warehouse-sized building on the edge of town, fluorescent lit and smelling of PVC and grease. Daniel grabbed a cart and headed straight for the fittings aisle. Victoria followed, scanning the shelves with the same focused intensity she'd used to assess her broken bathroom. This is more complicated than I thought, she said, staring at rows of identical-looking parts. Most things are once you get into the details. Daniel found what he needed, tossed it in the cart, then grabbed a few extras. You never know what you'll run into. That's smart. Redundancy planning. It's called being prepared. Same thing. At the register, Daniel paid with a credit card that he hoped wouldn't get declined. It went through. Small mercies. On the drive back, Victoria was quieter, watching the rain-soaked streets blur past. Daniel could feel her thinking, that analytical mind working through something. Can I ask you something? She said finally. Sure. Why didn't you panic yesterday? When the pipe burst? Daniel frowned. I told you, panicking doesn't help. But most people would have. Most people freeze under that kind of pressure, or they make impulsive decisions that make things worse. You didn't. You assessed. You acted. You solved the problem. Why? I don't know. Experience, I guess. It's more than that. She turned to face him. You've trained yourself to override your natural stress response, to stay calm when your brain is screaming at you to react. If you say so. I do say so. It's impressive. Daniel didn't know what to do with that, so he kept driving. But something in her tone made him ask, why do you care? Because I study this. Because understanding how people make good decisions under pressure is literally my job. She paused. And because I don't meet many people who are actually good at it. You make it sound like a superpower. In a way, it is. Most people spend their whole lives making fear-based choices. You don't. That's rare. They pulled into her driveway and Daniel killed the engine. The rain had eased to a drizzle, soft and steady. For what it's worth, he said, you didn't panic either. Yesterday, when I broke down your door, most people would have screamed or freaked out or called the cops. You just handled it. Victoria smiled. I suppose we have that in common. They sat there for a moment longer, the truck ticking as it cooled before heading back inside. The rest of the job went smoothly. Daniel installed the new fitting, tested the pressure, checked for leaks. Everything held. By 3:30, he was done. Pipes replaced, system functional, disaster averted. Victoria inspected his work with the same thorough attention she'd given the contractor's estimate. This looks good. It should last another 30 years. Easy. And if it doesn't, then you know where to find me. She walked him to the front door and Daniel realized he was stalling. He should leave, send her an invoice, move on to the next job. That was the script. But then Victoria said, "You still want that coffee?" And the script went out the window. They sat in her living room this time, a space that managed to be both elegant and comfortable, all soft grays and warm lighting. Victoria handed him a fresh mug and settled into the chair across from him. "Tell me about your daughter," she said. "Lily? She's great, smart, funny, stubborn as hell, reads constantly. She's already plowed through half the library's young adult section." "What does she want to be when she grows up?" "Changes every week. Last month it was astronaut. This week it's marine biologist." Daniel smiled. "She's got time to figure it out." "Does she know how lucky she is to have a dad who shows up for her?" The question landed heavier than expected. Daniel looked at Victoria, saw something raw flicker across her face before she shuddered it. "I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do," he said quietly. "Not everyone does." There was a story there, Daniel could tell, something personal. But before he could ask, Victoria shifted gears. "Do you ever date?" Daniel nearly choked on his coffee. "What? Date? You know, go out with another adult, have conversations that don't involve pipes or parent-teacher conferences." "I know what dating is, I just don't have time for it." "Or you don't make time for it." "Same thing." "Not really." She leaned forward, elbows on her knees. "When was the last time you went on a date?" Daniel had to think about it. 2 years ago, maybe 3. It didn't go well. "Why not?" "Because she wanted to know when I'd have a real job, and I wanted to leave before appetizers arrived." He shrugged. "Lily and I are fine on our own." "Are you?" "Yeah, we are." Victoria studied him, that same assessing look, and Daniel had the uncomfortable feeling that she could see straight through him. "What about you?" he asked, deflecting. "You date." "Occasionally, when I have time." And it's usually disappointing. Most men are either intimidated by what I do or they're trying to prove they're smarter than me. Neither is appealing. Sounds exhausting. It is. She sipped her coffee. I've mostly given up on it. So we're both terrible at this. Victoria laughed. Apparently, the conversation drifted after that. Easier topics, lighter subjects. Daniel told her about Lily's latest obsession with ocean documentaries. Victoria told him about a project she was consulting on, something involving predictive modeling and risk assessment that went mostly over his head but was interesting anyway, just because of the way she talked about it. At some point, Daniel glanced at his watch and realized an hour had passed. "I should go," he said, standing. "Lily's expecting me for dinner." "Of course." Victoria walked him to the door, and this time, there was no awkwardness, just ease. "Thank you for the company and for fixing my pipes." "Any time." At the door, she paused. "Daniel?" "Yeah?" "If you ever want to have a conversation that isn't about work or parenting, you know where to find me." He met her eyes, saw the offer there. Not a demand, not pressure, just possibility. "I'll keep that in mind," he said, and he meant it. That night, after Lily was asleep and the house was quiet, Daniel sat at the kitchen table with his laptop, staring at Victoria's invoice. He'd filled in the hours, the parts, the labor. All that was left was to hit send. His phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. "Did I scare you off with all the questions?" Daniel smiled and typed back. "Takes more than that to scare me." "Good. I'd hate to lose my plumber. Is that all I am?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then, "I'm still figuring that out." Daniel stared at the message for a long moment, then set the phone down and hit send on the invoice. He had no idea where this was going. He wasn't even sure it was going anywhere. But for the first time in years, he was interested in finding out. The following week unfolded in a rhythm Daniel hadn't expected. He finished a bathroom remodel across town, replaced a water heater for an elderly couple, and fixed a garbage disposal that had been making sounds like a dying animal. Normal jobs. Routine work. But his phone kept buzzing with texts from Victoria. At first, they were practical. Questions about the contractor's timeline, recommendations for a new showerhead, whether she should replace the toilet while the bathroom was torn apart anyway. Daniel answered them all, professional and straightforward. Then the text started shifting. Random question. Why do people always wait until something breaks before they fix it? Daniel wrote back, "Because prevention is boring. Crisis is exciting. You just described my entire client base." I think I just described everyone. Another day. Lily still want to be a marine biologist? This week she's into volcanoes. I blame the Science Channel. Smart kid. Volcanoes are fascinating. You study those too? I study decisions. Volcanoes just happen to involve a lot of very bad ones. And then, on Thursday night, while Daniel was helping Lily with a book report, "Are you free Saturday afternoon?" He stared at the message, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Lily looked up from her notes. "What's wrong?" "Nothing, just work stuff." "You're making a weird face." "I don't make weird faces." "You're making one right now." Daniel shook his head and typed, "Depends." "Why?" "The contractor's starting demo tomorrow. I could use a second opinion on some of the decisions. Plus, I promised you coffee, and I feel like I still owe you. You don't owe me anything, I know, but I'm asking anyway." Daniel glanced at Lily, who was watching him with knowing eyes that were way too perceptive for a 10-year-old. "What?" he said. "You're smiling." "So?" "So you never smile at your phone unless Aunt Marie sends you pictures of her cats." She grinned. "Who is it?" "A client." "A client who makes you smile?" "Drop it, Lily." But she was already laughing, and Daniel couldn't help smiling too. He texted back, "Saturday works." "What time? 2 o'clock? I'll be there." Saturday arrived cold and bright, the kind of autumn day that made everything look sharper. Daniel dropped Lily off at Marie's place. His sister took one look at him and raised an eyebrow. "You look nervous." "I'm not nervous." "You're wearing the good jeans." "These are my only jeans." "You ironed them." Daniel sighed. "I'm going to a client's house. I'm being professional." Marie smirked. "Sure you are." She called over her shoulder. "Lily, your dad's in denial." "About what?" Lily appeared in the doorway, already wearing Marie's apron. "Nothing," Daniel said firmly. "I'll pick you up around 6. "Have fun at your not date," Marie sing-songed. Daniel left before either of them could pile on further. He arrived at Victoria's house at 1:58 p.m. The contractor's truck was gone. Apparently they only worked half days on Saturdays, but the signs of demolition were everywhere. The master bathroom was gutted down to the studs, plastic sheeting hanging in the doorway, dust coating every surface. Victoria answered the door in jeans and a navy sweater, her hair down around her shoulders. "Hey, hey." Daniel stepped inside, taking in the chaos. "They work fast. They're efficient. I'll give them that." She gestured toward the destruction. "Want to see the damage?" They walked through the house together, Victoria narrating the contractor's progress. The wall was completely gone, the floor torn up, new framing already in place. It looked worse than it had after the flood, but Daniel could see the logic in the work. "He wants to upgrade the shower," Victoria said. "Bigger, walk-in, rainfall head. He sent me 3 different designs." She pulled out her phone, showing him the options. "I can't decide." Daniel studied them. "What do you want?" "I don't know. They're all nice." "That's not what I asked." He handed the phone back. "What do you actually want?" Victoria frowned, looking at the designs again. "The second one, I think. It's simpler, less showy." "Then go with that one." "But the third one has better resale value." "Are you planning to sell?" "No." "Then who cares about resale value?" She blinked, then laughed. "You're right. Yeah, you're right." She texted the contractor, then pocketed her phone. "Coffee?" "Always." They ended up in the living room again, mugs in hand, the afternoon light streaming through the windows. Daniel felt himself relaxing into the space, into the conversation, in a way that surprised him. "Can I ask you something?" Victoria said. "You're going to anyway." She smiled. "Why plumbing?" "I told you, I needed a job and—" "No, I mean, why do you still do it? You're good with people. You're smart. You could do a lot of things. Why this?" Daniel considered the question. "Because it matters. People need clean water. They need working pipes. And when something breaks, they need someone who can fix it. That's real. That's useful." "You like being useful, don't you?" "Fair point." Victoria set down her mug. "What about Lily? What does she think about what you do?" "She thinks it's fine. Normal. She's never known anything else." "Does she know how hard you work?" "She knows I'm gone a lot. She knows I'm tired sometimes." Daniel looked at Victoria. "But she also knows I show up. That's what matters." "You say that like it's simple." "It is simple. It's not easy, but it's simple." Victoria was quiet for a moment, her gaze distant. Then, "My father never showed up." Not for me, not for my mother. He was always working, always somewhere else. And when he was home, he wasn't really there. Daniel heard the weight in those words, the old hurt buried underneath. I'm sorry. Don't be. It taught me what not to do. She met his eyes. It taught me that presence matters more than success. Your mom, is she still around? She passed when I was in grad school. Cancer. That's rough. It was. But she got to see me finish my PhD. That mattered to her. Victoria's voice softened. She used to say I thought too much, that I should let myself feel things instead of analyzing them. Do you? Let myself feel things? She smiled sadly. I'm working on it. They sat with that for a while, the silence comfortable. Outside, a dog barked somewhere down the street. The light shifted, turning golden. Lily sounds like a great kid, Victoria said eventually. She is. She's the best thing I've ever done. Does she ever ask about her mom? Daniel tensed, old instincts kicking in. But something about Victoria's tone, genuine, not prying, made him answer honestly. Sometimes. Not as much as she used to. He set down his mug. Her mom left when Lily was 2. Said she wasn't ready to be a parent, that she needed to figure out her own life first. I haven't heard from her since. That must have been hard. It was terrifying. I had no idea what I was doing. I was 24, working 60-hour weeks trying to raise a toddler by myself. Daniel shook his head at the memory. But we figured it out day by day. And now? Now it's easier. We have a routine. We have each other. He looked at Victoria. It's enough. She held his gaze, something shifting in her expression. You're a good father, Daniel. I'm trying to be. That's what makes you good. The afternoon stretched into evening, conversation flowing easily. Victoria told him about her company, about the research she was working on, about a keynote speech she had to give next month that she was dreading. Daniel told her about Lily's school, about the leak he'd fixed at the elementary school, about his sister's never-ending quest to set him up with women he had no interest in meeting. She sounds persistent, Victoria said. That's one word for it. What does she think you need? Someone to take care of me, apparently. She thinks I work too hard. Do you? Probably, but I don't know how to do it any other way. Victoria nodded slowly. I understand that. By the time Daniel checked his watch, it was past 5. He stood reluctantly. I need to pick up Lily. Of course. Victoria walked him to the door, and Daniel found himself not wanting to leave. At the threshold, he paused. Thanks for today. For what? Showing you a gutted bathroom and talking your ear off? For the company. It's been a while since I had a conversation like this. Like what? Real. Easy. He met her eyes. I enjoyed it. Victoria smiled, something warm and genuine. Me too. Daniel drove to Marie's house with his mind spinning. He couldn't remember the last time he'd spent hours just talking to someone. No agenda, no expectations. It felt strange. It felt good. Marie answered the door with a knowing look. How was the client meeting? Fine. Just fine? Productive. Uh-huh. She stepped aside to let him in. Lily's in the living room. She made cookies. He found his daughter on the couch, reading again, a plate of chocolate chip cookies on the table beside her. She looked up when he entered. Hey, Dad. How'd it go? Good. How was your afternoon? Good. Aunt Marie taught me how to make cookies from scratch. They're really good. You should try one. Daniel grabbed a cookie, took a bite. These are amazing. I know. Lily closed her book. So who's the client? What? The one you've been texting all week. The one you're all weird about. Marie appeared in the doorway, arms crossed, grinning. Daniel sighed. Her name's Victoria. I fixed her pipes last week. Today I helped her pick out a new shower. And? Lily prompted. And nothing. She's a client. A client you smile about. A client who's nice. That's allowed. Lily and Marie exchanged a look that Daniel didn't like. What? He said. Nothing, they said in unison, which meant definitely something. Daniel grabbed another cookie. We're leaving. Say thank you to Aunt Marie. Thank you, Aunt Marie, Lily parroted, gathering her things. In the truck on the way home, Lily was quiet, staring out the window. Then, Dad? Yeah, kiddo? Are you happy? There was that question again. Daniel gripped the steering wheel. Why do you keep asking me that? Because you seem different lately. Like, lighter. Lighter? Yeah, like you're not carrying as much. Daniel didn't know what to say to that. He'd been carrying the weight of their life for so long, he'd forgotten what it felt like not to. I'm okay, Lily. We're okay. I know we're okay. That's not what I asked. Smart kid? Too smart. I don't know if I'm happy, Daniel admitted. But I think I might be starting to figure out what that could look like. Lily nodded, satisfied. Good. You deserve to be happy, Dad. So do you. I am happy. I have you and Aunt Marie and my books and cookies. That's pretty good. Daniel reached over and squeezed her hand. Yeah, kiddo, that's pretty good. That night, after Lily was asleep, Daniel's phone buzzed. Thank you for today. I needed that more than I realized. V. He stared at the message, then typed, Anytime. I'm holding you to that. Good. A pause, then, Good night, Daniel. Good night, Victoria. He set the phone down and leaned back in his chair. Outside, the wind rattled the windows, carrying the first real chill of autumn. Inside, the house was warm and quiet. And for the first time in a very long time, Daniel Hayes let himself imagine what might come next. The texts didn't stop. Over the next 2 weeks, they became part of Daniel's routine. Morning coffee accompanied by a message from Victoria about something she'd read. Afternoon breaks punctuated by her questions about decisions people made. Evenings where they'd trade observations about their vastly different days. It was easy. Too easy, maybe. Daniel told himself it was just friendly. Professional even. But when Lily caught him grinning at his phone for the third time in one evening, she didn't even bother asking who it was anymore. She just rolled her eyes and went back to her homework. On a Tuesday afternoon, while Daniel was replacing a sink trap in a rental property downtown, his phone rang. Not a text, an actual call. Victoria's name on the screen. He answered, wedging the phone between his shoulder and ear. Hey, are you busy? She sounded different, uncertain. I'm working, but I can talk. What's up? The contractor finished today. The bathroom's done. That's great. How's it look? It's perfect. Exactly what I wanted. A pause. I was thinking, would you want to come see it? Get your professional opinion? Daniel smiled despite himself. You don't need my professional opinion. You already paid the contractor. Maybe I just want to show it to someone who'll appreciate the work. When? Tonight? I know it's last minute, but tonight works. Another pause. Bring Lily. That stopped him. What? Bring your daughter? I'd like to meet her. Victoria's voice steadied, more certain now. If that's okay with you. Daniel's mind raced. This was crossing a line, wasn't it? This was taking whatever this was and making it something else entirely. This was letting his daughter meet someone who might not stick around, who might leave, who might... Daniel. Yeah, okay. We can come by around 6:30, after dinner. Perfect. I'll order pizza. What is Lily like? You don't have to... Pepperoni or cheese? Cheese! But Victoria... See you at 6:30. She hung up before he could protest further. Daniel stood there in the dingy rental bathroom, phone still pressed to his ear, wondering what the hell he'd just agreed to. When he picked Lily up from school that afternoon, she knew something was different immediately. Where are we going? She asked, buckling her seatbelt. What makes you think we're going somewhere? You're doing the thing with your jaw, the nervous thing. I don't do a thing with my jaw. You totally do. So where are we going? Daniel pulled out of the parking lot, merging into traffic. A client wants to show me her finished bathroom renovation. I said we'd stop by. We? She invited you too. Lily's eyes went wide. Is this the client? The one you've been texting? I haven't been... Yes. Her name's Victoria. And she wants to meet me? Apparently. Why? I don't know, Lily. Because I talk about you. And she's curious, I guess. His daughter was quiet for a moment, processing. Then, is she nice? Yeah, she's nice. Is she pretty? Lily. What? It's a valid question. Daniel sighed. Yes, she's pretty. Can we drop it? Does she know you're nervous? I'm not nervous. Your jaw's doing the thing again. They stopped by the house first. Daniel made Lily change out of her school clothes. She grumbled but complied, emerging in jeans and a sweater that had a cartoonish octopus on it. She caught him looking. What? You said casual. I didn't say anything. You thought it really loud. At 6:25, they pulled into Victoria's driveway. The house looked the same as always, elegant, expensive, slightly intimidating. Lily stared at it through the window. She lives here. Yep. By herself? Yep. Wow. Lily unbuckled. Okay, let's do this. Daniel had no idea where his 10-year-old daughter got her confidence, but he envied it. Victoria answered the door in jeans and a soft gray cardigan, her hair loose, expression carefully neutral until she saw Lily. Then something in her face shifted, softened. You must be Lily. That's me. Lily stuck out her hand with the formality of a tiny business person. Nice to meet you, Ms. Steele. Victoria shook it, smiling. Call me Victoria. Come in. Both of you. The house smelled like pizza and something else. Vanilla, maybe. Candles. The lights were warm, less stark than Daniel remembered from his previous visits. Victoria led them to the kitchen, where 2 pizza boxes sat on the counter alongside plates and napkins. I got cheese and pepperoni, Victoria said. Wasn't sure which you'd prefer, so I got both. Pepperoni's my dad's favorite, Lily said. I like cheese. Then we're set. Victoria handed them plates. Help yourselves. They ate at the kitchen table, not the formal dining room, but the smaller breakfast nook with windows overlooking the backyard. Lily dove into her pizza with the enthusiasm of someone who'd been starving, while Daniel picked at his, hyper-aware of every detail. Victoria asked Lily about school, about her favorite subjects, about the book she was currently reading. Lily answered easily, no shyness, launching into an explanation of the fantasy series she was obsessed with. Daniel watched them, watched the way Victoria listened, really listened, not the polite attention adults usually gave kids, but genuine interest. Have you read the second one yet? Victoria asked. I'm on chapter 12. It's so good. The main character just found out her best friend's been lying to her the whole time. That's rough. I know, right? I don't know if I'd forgive her if I was in that situation. Would it depend on why she lied? Lily considered this seriously. Yeah, I guess. If it was to protect someone, maybe. But if it was just because she was scared or selfish, I don't know. That's harder. People lie for complicated reasons, Victoria said quietly. Sometimes even good people make bad choices. That's what my dad says. Daniel felt both of them look at him. He shrugged. It's true. After pizza, Victoria gave them the tour, starting with the renovated bathroom. It looked incredible, all white subway tile and brushed nickel fixtures, the new walk-in shower exactly as she'd described. Simple, but elegant. It's perfect, Daniel said, and meant it. Better than the broken version? Significantly better. Lily wandered around the bathroom, examining everything with the curiosity of someone half her age. This is way nicer than ours. Lily, Daniel warned. What? It is. Our bathroom has that weird stain on the ceiling. That's from a roof leak. I fixed it. But the stain's still there. Victoria laughed, a real laugh, the kind Daniel had only heard a few times. She's not wrong. Traitor, Daniel muttered, but he was smiling. They moved through the rest of the house. Lily asked a million questions about the paintings on the walls, about the books on the shelves, about the ridiculous number of throw pillows in the living room. Victoria answered them all patiently, and Daniel found himself relaxing, the initial anxiety fading. In Victoria's office, Lily stopped in front of a framed photograph on the desk. A younger Victoria with an older woman, both smiling. Is that your mom? Lily asked. Victoria's expression flickered. Yeah, that's her. She's pretty. You look like her. Thank you. Lily moved on, oblivious to the weight of the moment, but Daniel saw it, saw the way Victoria touched the frame gently before following them out. Back downstairs, Lily discovered a bookshelf full of psychology and economics textbooks. She pulled one out, flipping through pages dense with charts and graphs. Do you actually read these? she asked Victoria. I do. That's what I study, how people make decisions. Like what? Like whether to tell the truth or lie, whether to take a risk or play it safe, why someone chooses one path over another. Lily thought about this. That sounds complicated. It is. People are complicated. My dad says that too. Your dad's pretty smart. Lily grinned. Don't tell him that. He'll get a big head. I heard that, Daniel called from the kitchen, where he was throwing away paper plates. You were supposed to. Victoria caught Daniel's eye across the room, and something unspoken passed between them. Something warm and promising and terrifying all at once. The evening wound down slowly. Lily curled up on Victoria's couch with one of the books from the shelf, a collection of short stories Victoria said she'd loved at that age. Daniel and Victoria ended up in the kitchen, cleaning up the last of the dinner mess. She's wonderful, Victoria said quietly, loading plates into the dishwasher. She has her moments. I'm serious, Daniel. You're raising an incredible kid. I'm trying. You're succeeding. Victoria closed the dishwasher, leaning against the counter. She's curious and kind and thoughtful. That doesn't happen by accident. Daniel didn't know what to say to that, so he folded the pizza boxes instead, breaking them down for recycling. Can I ask you something? Victoria said. Sure. Why did you really say yes to tonight? He looked at her. What do you mean? You could have said no. You could have come alone, but you brought Lily. She held his gaze. Why? Daniel set down the boxes. Because you asked, and because I wanted you to meet her. Why? Because she's the most important thing in my life. And if you're going to be... He stopped, the words catching. If I'm going to be what? Victoria's voice was soft, careful. I don't know yet, Daniel admitted. But whatever this is, I wanted you to see that part of my life, the real part. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. Then she moved closer, just a step, but it felt significant. I'm glad you did, she said. I know this is complicated. I know we're figuring it out as we go. But I'm glad you're not shutting me out. Are you shutting me out? I'm trying not to. She smiled slightly. It's not my strong suit. What is your strong suit? Analysis, control, keeping people at a distance so they can't... She stopped, shook her head. Never mind. So they can't what? Victoria looked away. So they can't leave. The words hung in the air between them, heavy with old hurt. Daniel understood that fear. He'd lived it. I'm not going anywhere, he said quietly. You don't know that. No, but I know I'm here now, and I know I want to keep being here. Victoria met his eyes again, something vulnerable in her expression. This scares me. Yeah, me too. But you're still here. So are you. They stood there in the warm kitchen, the dishwasher humming, Lily's soft laughter drifting in from the living room where she'd found something funny in the book. And in that moment, Daniel felt something shift, not breaking, but opening, making room for possibility. Dad? Lily appeared in the doorway. It's almost 8:30. Daniel checked his watch, surprised. You're right. We should head out. School night. Lily grabbed her jacket while Victoria walked them to the door. On the porch, Lily surprised them both by hugging Victoria quickly, unselfconsciously. Thanks for having us over, and for the pizza. Victoria looked startled, then pleased. Anytime. It was really nice to meet you, Lily. You too. Lily bounded down the steps toward the truck. Victoria turned to Daniel. She just hugged me. She likes you. That doesn't happen with everyone. I like her too. A pause. And I like you. Daniel smiled. I like you too. So what do we do about that? I guess we keep figuring it out. Slowly, Victoria added. Yeah, slowly. But standing there on her porch, with Lily waiting in the truck and the evening air cool around them, slowly felt like exactly the right pace. Daniel drove home with Lily, chattering about Victoria's house, Victoria's books, Victoria's everything. He let her talk, only half listening, his mind replaying the evening. She's really smart, Lily said as they pulled into their driveway. Yeah, she is. And she listens, like really listens, not the way some adults do where they're just waiting for you to stop talking. I noticed that too. Lily unbuckled, turning to face him. Do you like her, Dad? Like her? Daniel sighed. Yeah, kiddo, I think I do. Good, because she definitely likes you. How do you know? The way she looked at you when she thought I wasn't paying attention, and the way she smiled when you were talking, and the way, okay, okay, I get it, Lily grinned. Just saying, I'm very observant. You're very something. Inside, Lily got ready for bed with minimal prodding, brushing teeth, changing into pajamas, grabbing the book Victoria had let her borrow. Daniel tucked her in, kissing her forehead. Night, kiddo. Night, Dad. She paused. I'm glad we went tonight. Yeah? Yeah. Victoria's cool. You should keep her. It doesn't work like that. Why not? Because people aren't things you keep. They choose to stick around. Or they don't. Lily frowned. Well, I think she's going to choose to stick around. She'd be stupid not to. Thanks for the vote of confidence. Any time. Daniel turned off the light and closed the door, leaning against it for a moment in the hallway. His phone buzzed. Thank you for bringing Lily. She's incredible. V, she thinks you're cool. Direct quote. I think she's cooler. Agreed. A pause, then, this feels big, Daniel. He stared at the message, heart beating faster. Yeah, it does. Are you okay with that? Daniel thought about it, really thought about it, about the risk, the vulnerability, the possibility of getting hurt. About Lily's observation that he seemed lighter lately, about the way he felt when he talked to Victoria, like he didn't have to be just the plumber or just the dad, but could be himself. Yeah, he typed. I'm okay with it. Good, because I am too. Terrified, but okay. We can be terrified together. Deal. Daniel smiled at his phone in the dark hallway, feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. The next few weeks moved faster than Daniel expected. October slipped into November, the weather turning colder, leaves falling in earnest. Work stayed busy. A string of emergency calls, a major pipe replacement at an apartment complex, the usual seasonal prep before winter hit. But through it all, Victoria was there. Not physically, not always, but present in a way that mattered. Texts became phone calls, became video chats when Lily wanted to show Victoria something she'd drawn or read aloud from her latest book. It stopped being just Daniel and Victoria and became something bigger, something that included his daughter naturally, easily. Marie noticed, of course. So when do I get to meet this mystery woman? She asked one Sunday, while Daniel helped her clean out her garage. She's not a mystery. Then bring her to Thanksgiving. Daniel dropped the box he was holding. What? Thanksgiving, you know, the holiday? With turkey and family, and I know what Thanksgiving is. You want me to bring Victoria? Unless you're planning to hide her forever. Marie crossed her arms. Come on, Danny. You're clearly serious about her. Lily adores her. What's the problem? It's too soon. For what? Meeting your sister? I'm not exactly intimidating. You interrogated my last girlfriend about her career goals before appetizers. That was different. She was terrible. Marie softened. Look, I'm not trying to pressure you, but you're happy. Happier than I've seen you in years. I just want to meet the person responsible for that. Daniel picked up the box again, stalling. I'll ask her, but I'm not promising anything. Fair enough. That night, Daniel lay in bed, staring at his phone. The cursor blinked in the text field, taunting him. Finally, he just wrote it. My sister wants you to come to Thanksgiving. No pressure, but she's been asking. The response came quickly. Does she know you're seeing someone? She knows I've been texting someone. She's extremely nosy. Is that what we're doing? Seeing each other? Daniel's heart thudded. They'd been dancing around the label for weeks, both of them too cautious to name it. I think so, he typed. If you want to be. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. I want to be, Victoria wrote, but I need you to know something first. Okay? I'm not good at this. Relationships. I tend to overthink everything and pull back when things get too real. So we're both disasters. Got it. I'm serious, Daniel. I don't want to hurt you. Or Lily. Then don't. It's not that simple. Actually, it kind of is. You show up or you don't. You're honest or you're not. Everything else we can figure out. Another long pause. Then, okay. Okay? Okay, I'll come to Thanksgiving. And okay, we're seeing each other. And okay, I'm going to try really hard not to overthink this. Daniel smiled. That's all I'm asking. When is it? Thursday, the 23rd. Marie's place. Expect chaos. I can handle chaos. I met you during a flood, remember? Fair point. Good night, Daniel. Good night, Victoria. He set the phone down, still smiling. This was happening, actually happening. And for once, the fear was smaller than the excitement. Thanksgiving morning arrived gray and cold, threatening snow. Daniel woke early, helping Lily make the sweet potato casserole they brought every year. Her job was to mash the potatoes. His was to keep her from eating all the marshmallows before they made it onto the dish. Is Victoria coming? Lily asked for the third time. Yes. She's meeting us there at 2. Is she nervous? Probably. Are you nervous? Definitely. Lily grinned. Good. That means you really like her. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You're just now noticing. They arrived at Marie's house at 1:45. The place was already packed, Marie's husband Tom manning the turkey, their 2 teenage sons arguing over football on TV, the kitchen a hurricane of side dishes and desserts. Marie spotted Daniel immediately, pulling him into a hug. You made it! And you brought the casserole, thank goodness. Tom almost bought one from the store. I heard that, Tom called from the kitchen. You were supposed to. Marie turned to Lily. Hi, sweetie. Go help your cousins set the table. They're useless at it. Lily scampered off, and Marie fixed Daniel with a look. So, where is she? She's coming. She said 2 o'clock. And you're okay? You look pale. I'm fine. You're terrified. That too. Marie squeezed his arm. It's going to be fine. I promise to only ask moderately invasive questions. Marie? Kidding, mostly. At exactly 2 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Daniel's stomach dropped. I'll get it, Marie sing-songed, already heading for the door. Daniel followed, catching up just as Marie opened it. Victoria stood on the porch in dark jeans and a cream-colored sweater, holding a bottle of wine and a pie. She looked beautiful and terrified and completely out of her element. Hi, she said. I'm Victoria. You must be Marie. I am. Come in, it's freezing out there. Marie ushered her inside, taking the wine and pie. You didn't have to bring anything, but this looks amazing. Store-bought or homemade? Bakery, I don't bake. Smart woman. I'll put this with the others. Marie disappeared into the kitchen, leaving Daniel and Victoria in the entryway. Hey, Daniel said. Hey, Victoria smiled nervously. So this is happening. You can still run. I'm not running. She took off her coat, handing it to him. But I reserve the right to hide in the bathroom if things get overwhelming. Deal. Daniel hung up her coat, and they moved into the living room. Tom appeared, introducing himself with a firm handshake. The boys, Jake and Connor, 16 and 14, gave Victoria the classic teenager assessment, barely interested nods before returning to the game. And then Lily materialized, grinning. Victoria, you came. Of course I came. Victoria bent down, returning Lily's hug. I wouldn't miss it. Watching them, Daniel felt something settle in his chest. This was right. Messy and imperfect and terrifying, but right. Dinner was chaos in the best way. Too much food, too many conversations happening at once. Marie's boys bickering about everything. Tom's terrible jokes. Lily telling Victoria increasingly elaborate stories about school. Victoria held her own, laughing in the right places, asking questions that proved she was actually listening, looking more relaxed as the evening wore on. After dinner, while the boys cleared the table and Tom fell asleep on the couch, Marie corralled Victoria into the kitchen under the guise of helping with dishes. Daniel tried to follow, but Marie blocked him. Nope. Girl talk. Go supervise the table clearing. Marie, go. He went, but slowly, lingering near the kitchen door where he could hear snippets of conversation. Really glad you're here, Marie was saying. Daniel's been different lately, happier. He talks about you and the boys a lot, Victoria replied. And Lily, obviously. She's amazing. She is. And she's been through a lot. They both have. A pause. He told me about Lily's mom. Did he tell you how hard it was, those first few years? Some. He was a mess, Marie said quietly. 24 years old, working himself to death, trying to figure out how to raise a toddler alone. I honestly didn't think he'd make it. But he did. And he became this incredible father, and I'm so proud of him, but her voice caught. But he's been alone for so long, and I've watched him convince himself that that's enough, that he doesn't need anything else. So seeing him with you, seeing him let someone in, it matters. A lot. Daniel's chest tightened. I'm not going anywhere, Victoria said firmly. I know it's early, and I know I'm terrible at this, but I care about him. And Lily, I'm not going to hurt them if I can help it. Good. Because if you do, I'll hunt you down. Victoria laughed. Fair enough. Daniel stepped away from the door before they caught him eavesdropping, his heart racing. The evening wound down slowly. Tom woke up, insisting on leftover pie. The boys drifted upstairs to their rooms. Lily curled up on the couch, fighting sleep. And finally, around 8, Daniel caught Victoria's eye. Should we head out? She nodded, looking relieved and reluctant in equal measure. They said their goodbyes. Marie hugged Victoria like they were old friends, extracting a promise that she'd come back for Christmas. Tom gave her a knowing smile. Lily was half asleep but managed to wave. Outside, the temperature had dropped, frost forming on car windshields. Daniel walked Victoria to her car, hands shoved in his pockets. That wasn't so bad, she said. They loved you. Your sister threatened to hunt me down if I hurt you. That sounds like her. Victoria leaned against her car, looking at him. This is real now, isn't it? Like, officially real. Yeah, I think it is. I'm still scared. Me too. But I don't want to stop. Neither do I. They stood there in the cold, breath fogging in the air between them. And then Victoria closed the distance, rising on her toes to kiss him. It was soft. Tentative. Perfect. When they pulled apart, Daniel was grinning like an idiot. What? Victoria asked. Nothing. Just, we're doing this. We're doing this, she confirmed. Slowly. Slowly, she agreed. But standing there in Marie's driveway with Thanksgiving dinner settling warm in his stomach and Victoria's hand in his, slowly felt like the beginning of something that could last a lifetime. The kiss changed things. Not dramatically. There was no sudden shift, no grand declaration. But in the days that followed, Daniel felt it in the small moments. The way Victoria's goodnight texts now ended with a heart emoji. The way she called him just to hear his voice, no agenda, no reason except wanting to. The way Lily started saying, when Victoria comes over, instead of if. December arrived with the first real snow, blanketing the city in white. Daniel's schedule exploded. Frozen pipes, broken water heaters, emergency calls from panicked homeowners who'd never dealt with winter plumbing issues before. He worked 12-hour days, coming home exhausted, barely able to keep his eyes open through dinner. Victoria noticed. You're running yourself into the ground, she said one night, her voice crackling over the phone while Daniel soaked his sore feet in the bathtub. It's the season? Happens every year. That doesn't make it okay. I don't have a choice. Bills don't pay themselves. What if you hired help? Daniel laughed, then realized she was serious. I can't afford an employee. An apprentice, then. Someone learning the trade. They'd work for less and you'd be teaching them. I don't have time to train someone. You don't have time not to. Victoria's voice softened. Daniel, I'm watching you burn out. And I know you think you have to do everything yourself, but you don't. You're allowed to ask for help. He wanted to argue, but exhaustion won out. I'll think about it. Promise? Promise. 2 days later, Victoria showed up at his house unannounced. Daniel opened the door to find her standing there with takeout bags and a determined expression. You didn't answer my texts, she said, pushing past him into the living room. I was working. It's 8 o'clock. On a Saturday. Emergency call. Ladies' basement was flooding. Victoria set down the bags and turned to face him. When was the last time you ate? Daniel tried to remember. Lunch, I think? That was 7 hours ago. I've been busy. You're going to make yourself sick. She started unpacking containers. Thai food, his favorite. Sit down. Eat. Victoria, don't argue with me. I'm smarter than you. Despite himself, Daniel smiled. Debatable. Sit down. He sat. Lily appeared from her room, drawn by the smell of food, and joined them at the table. They ate together, Victoria asking Lily about her week, Lily talking about a science project involving volcanoes that had apparently gone moderately disastrous. We were supposed to make it erupt, Lily explained around a mouthful of pad thai. But I used too much vinegar and it exploded everywhere. Mr. Peterson was not happy. Did it work, though? Victoria asked. Oh yeah, super well. Just messier than planned. Sometimes the messy version is the interesting version. Lily grinned. That's what I said. Mr. Peterson still made me clean it up. After dinner, Lily retreated to her room to finish homework, leaving Daniel and Victoria alone in the kitchen. She started washing dishes without being asked, moving around his space like she belonged there. You don't have to do that, Daniel said. I know. Then why are you? Victoria glanced at him. Because you're exhausted. Because you spent all day fixing other people's problems. Because I wanted to. Daniel moved beside her, taking the dish she'd just rinsed and drying it. They worked in silence for a while, the rhythm comfortable and easy. I looked into apprenticeships, he admitted finally. Yeah? There's a program through the trade school. They match experienced plumbers with students. I could take on someone part-time, see how it goes. That's great. It's scary. Why? Daniel set down the dish. Because if I hire someone, even part-time, I'm responsible for them. I have to teach them right, pay them fairly, make sure they're learning, and if it doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out. And you try something else. Victoria turned off the water, facing him. You can't keep doing this alone, Daniel. You're good at what you do, but you're one person. There's only so much you can handle before something breaks. I'm fine. You're not. She reached for his hand. And I'm not saying this to criticize you. I'm saying it because I care about you and I don't want to watch you work yourself to death. The words hung between them, heavy with meaning. Daniel squeezed her hand. Okay, he said quietly. I'll call the program on Monday. Thank you. They finished the dishes together, then moved to the living room. Victoria curled up on the couch, and Daniel sat beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. It felt natural now, this proximity. Easy. Can I ask you something? Victoria said. Always. What are you doing for Christmas? Same thing we do every year. Marie's house, too much food. Lily gets spoiled by her cousins. What about Christmas Eve? Daniel shrugged. Usually just me and Lily. We make cookies, watch movies. She opens one present early because she has zero patience. Victoria smiled at that. Would you want company? You want to spend Christmas Eve with us? If that's okay. Victoria, you don't have to. I want to. She looked at him, something vulnerable in her eyes. I haven't had a real Christmas in years. Since my mom died, I usually just work through the holidays, but this year I thought maybe I could do something different. Daniel's chest tightened. Yeah, we'd love that. Lily would be thrilled. You sure? Positive. Victoria leaned her head on his shoulder, and Daniel wrapped an arm around her. They sat like that for a long time, listening to Lily's music drifting from her room, the radiator clanking softly, the quiet sounds of a house settling in for the night. I'm happy, Victoria said suddenly. Yeah? Yeah, I didn't expect to be. But I am. Daniel kissed the top of her head. Me too. The following Monday, Daniel called the trade school. By Wednesday, he had an interview scheduled with a potential apprentice, a 22-year-old named Marcus, who was finishing his certification and needed hands-on experience. They met at a coffee shop downtown, Marcus arriving early and nervous, clutching a resume that looked like it had been printed 5 minutes ago. Thanks for meeting with me, Marcus said, shaking Daniel's hand maybe a little too enthusiastically. No problem. Have a seat. They talked for an hour. Marcus was green but eager, smart but inexperienced, exactly what Daniel had been at that age. He asked good questions, didn't pretend to know more than he did, and seemed genuinely interested in learning. When can you start? Daniel asked finally. Marcus blinked. You're offering me the position? Part-time, like we discussed. 3 days a week to start, see how it goes. Pay's not great, but it's fair, and you'll learn a lot. I'll take it. Yes, absolutely. You didn't even ask what the pay was. I don't care, I need the experience, and you seem like someone who actually knows what he's doing. Daniel couldn't help but smile. All right then. We'll start next Monday. Wear clothes you don't mind ruining. Marcus left looking like he'd won the lottery, and Daniel sat there for a few minutes longer, processing what he'd just done. He'd hired someone, taken on responsibility for another person's livelihood, their education, their future. It was terrifying. It was also exactly what he needed. That night, he told Victoria about it over FaceTime. She was in her home office, surrounded by papers, but she set everything aside to listen. "I'm proud of you," she said when he finished. "It might be a disaster. Or it might be great. Either way, you tried. When did you get so optimistic?" "I'm not optimistic. I'm realistic. And realistically, you made a smart decision." Daniel leaned back in his chair. "How's your project going?" Victoria groaned. "Don't ask. That bad?" "The client keeps changing their mind about what they want. We're on the 4th iteration of the risk model, and I'm pretty sure we're going to end up right back where we started." "Sounds frustrating." "It's maddening, but it pays well, so I'm trying to be patient." "You? Patient?" "I said trying, not succeeding." They talked for another hour, the conversation meandering through work stress and Christmas plans and whether Die Hard counted as a Christmas movie. Eventually, Lily knocked on Daniel's door ready for bed, and he said goodnight to Victoria with the promise to call tomorrow. The days blurred together after that, work and appointments and errands, Marcus's first week on the job, which went better than expected, Lily's school winter concert where she played a recorder solo that was only slightly off-key. Victoria came to the concert, sitting beside Daniel in the crowded gymnasium, applauding enthusiastically when Lily finished. Afterward, in the parking lot, Lily hugged Victoria without prompting. "Thanks for coming," she said. "Wouldn't have missed it. You were great. I messed up in the middle." "I didn't notice." Lily grinned. "You're a bad liar, but I appreciate it." Daniel watched them, something warm settling in his chest. This was becoming real. Not just him and Victoria figuring things out, but the three of them becoming something together. Christmas Eve arrived faster than expected. Daniel spent the morning finishing last-minute jobs, then picked up Lily from school, her last day before winter break. She was vibrating with excitement, talking non-stop about presents and cookies and Victoria coming over. "What time is she getting here?" Lily asked for the 10th time. 5 o'clock. "That's forever. That's 2 hours. Forever." They stopped at the grocery store for cookie ingredients. Lily insisted on making 3 different kinds. And by the time they got home, it was almost 4. Daniel showered quickly, trying to wash away the smell of pipe cleaner and drywall dust, while Lily changed into her favorite sweater, the one with a snowman on it that was slightly too small, but she refused to give up. Victoria arrived at 5:03, carrying bags that clinked suspiciously. "What's all that?" Daniel asked, taking them from her. "Ingredients for hot chocolate, the real kind, not the packet stuff." Lily's eyes went wide. "Can we make it now?" "After cookies," Victoria said. "I was promised cookies." They commandeered the kitchen, flour flying everywhere, Lily directing operations like a tiny general. Daniel handled the actual baking while Victoria and Lily mixed ingredients, tasted dough when they thought he wasn't looking, and debated the proper chocolate chip to cookie ratio. "More chocolate is always better," Lily insisted. "What if it's too sweet?" Victoria countered. "Impossible. Sweet is the whole point." Daniel watched them, covered in flour, arguing about cookies, and felt something click into place. This was what he'd been missing. Not just Victoria, but this, the chaos, the laughter, the feeling that his home was full instead of just occupied. The cookies went into the oven, and while they baked, Victoria made hot chocolate from scratch, melting real chocolate, adding cream and vanilla, the kitchen filling with rich, sweet smells. They brought mugs to the living room where Daniel had set up the Christmas tree earlier that week. It was small, slightly lopsided, decorated with ornaments Lily had made over the years, but it was theirs. Victoria studied it with a smile. "It's perfect." "It's crooked," Lily said. "That's part of its charm." They settled on the couch, Lily between them, and put on a movie. Home Alone, Lily's choice. The cookies came out halfway through, and they ate them warm, washing them down with hot chocolate that was definitely too rich, but absolutely worth it. At some point, Lily fell asleep, curled against Victoria's side. Daniel glanced over and found Victoria watching his daughter with an expression he couldn't quite name. Soft. Protective. Something that looked a lot like love. "Should we move her to bed?" Victoria whispered. "Let her sleep. She'll wake up in a bit and demand to open her present." "Does she always get one on Christmas Eve?" "Every year. It's tradition." Victoria nodded, and they sat in comfortable silence, the movie playing on, the tree lights twinkling. Daniel felt her hand find his, fingers intertwining. "This is nice," she said quietly. "Yeah, it is. I was scared about tonight." "Why?" "Because I haven't done this in so long. The whole family thing. I wasn't sure I'd remember how." "You're doing great. Lily makes it easy. She likes you, a lot." Victoria looked at him. "What about you?" Daniel smiled. "I like you a lot too." "Just like?" "Maybe more than like." "How much more?" He leaned in, kissing her softly. "A lot more." When they pulled apart, Victoria was smiling. "Good. Because I'm maybe falling for you, Daniel Hayes, and that's terrifying, but it's also the best thing that's happened to you in years?" "Yeah, that." Lily stirred between them, blinking awake. "Did I miss the movie?" "Most of it," Daniel admitted. "Can I open my present now? It's not even 7 yet." "Please? I've been so patient." Victoria laughed. "That's not even remotely true." "Fine. I've been moderately patient." Daniel retrieved the gift from under the tree, a new book series Lily had been eyeing for months. She tore into it with the enthusiasm of someone who'd been waiting their entire life, squealing when she saw what it was. "Thank you, thank you, thank you." She hugged Daniel, then Victoria, then Daniel again. "You're welcome, kiddo." Lily settled back on the couch, already opening the first book. Daniel stood, stretching. "Anyone want more cookies?" "Yes," both Victoria and Lily said in unison. He headed to the kitchen, and Victoria followed, leaving Lily absorbed in her book. "She's happy," Victoria observed. "She's always happy on Christmas Eve." "No, I mean in general. You've given her a good life, Daniel." "I've tried." "You've succeeded." Victoria leaned against the counter, watching him plate cookies. "Can I tell you something?" "Sure. I didn't think I could do this. The relationship thing, the family thing. I've spent so long keeping people at arm's length, protecting myself, that I forgot what it felt like to actually connect with someone. And now? Now I'm here, eating cookies in your kitchen on Christmas Eve, and I don't want to be anywhere else." She moved closer. "You and Lily, you've changed something in me, made me want things I didn't think I wanted." Daniel set down the cookies. "Like what?" "Like this. Like a partner. Like maybe being part of something bigger than just my work and my research." She took a breath. "Like maybe, eventually, being part of your family." The words settled over him, heavy with promise. Daniel cupped her face, kissing her slowly, deeply, trying to convey everything he felt and didn't quite have words for yet. When they broke apart, Victoria was smiling. "Was that a yes?" "That was a definitely, absolutely, whenever you're ready, yes. I need time. I need to do this slowly." "I know. But I'm serious about this, about you, about Lily." "I know that too." They stood there in his small kitchen, the smell of cookies in the air, Lily's laughter drifting from the living room, and Daniel felt the last of his fear dissolve. This was right. Messy and imperfect and complicated, but right. They brought the cookies back to the living room. Lily had abandoned her book in favor of setting up a board game, Monopoly, which always ended in arguments, but she loved anyway. "Teams?" she suggested. "Me and Victoria against you, Dad. That seems unfair. You're good at math. It evens out." Victoria laughed. "I like her logic." They played for 2 hours, Victoria and Lily utterly destroying Daniel's real estate empire, trash-talking him mercilessly the entire time. He declared bankruptcy around 9:30, and Lily celebrated like she'd won the lottery. "We're undefeated," she crowed, high-fiving Victoria. "Technically, this is our first game together," Victoria pointed out. "Still undefeated." Daniel shook his head, smiling. "I've created a monster." "2 monsters," Victoria corrected. "We're a team now." After Monopoly came another movie, then Cookies and Milk, then finally bedtime for Lily. She hugged Victoria goodnight at the door, holding on a little longer than usual. "Will you be here for Christmas dinner tomorrow?" she asked. Victoria glanced at Daniel, who nodded. "If you want me to be." "I definitely want you to be." "Then I'll be here." Lily beamed and headed upstairs. Daniel walked Victoria to her car, the night cold and clear, stars visible overhead. "Thank you for tonight," he said. "Thank you for inviting me." "Lily wasn't kidding. We really do want you at Christmas dinner." What about Marie? Is she expecting me? I already told her you're coming. She's making extra stuffing. Victoria smiled. Then I guess I'm coming. They kissed again, slow and sweet, neither wanting to let go. Finally, Victoria pulled back. I should go. It's late. Drive safe. Always. She started to get in her car, then paused. Daniel? Yeah? I meant what I said earlier about wanting to be part of this, part of your life. I know. I'm going to try really hard not to screw this up. So am I. Good. She smiled. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, Victoria. He watched her drive away, then headed inside. Lily was already in bed, but she called out when she heard him on the stairs. Dad? He stuck his head in her room. Yeah, kiddo. I really like Victoria. I know you do. Like, I really, really like her. Like, I hope she sticks around forever like her. Daniel's throat tightened. Yeah, me too. Do you think she will stick around? I think she wants to, and I think we should give her every reason to want to keep wanting to. Lily considered this. That's a lot of wanting. Yeah, but it's good wanting. Okay. She yawned, burrowing deeper into her blankets. Night, Dad. Night, Lily. He turned off her light and headed to his own room, collapsing onto his bed fully clothed. His phone buzzed. Home safe. Tonight was perfect. Thank you. V, thank you for being here. Sleep well. You too. See you tomorrow. Daniel set the phone aside and closed his eyes, a smile on his face. Tomorrow was Christmas. Tomorrow, Victoria would be here, part of their celebration, part of their family. Tomorrow, and hopefully every day after that. For the first time in 10 years, Daniel Hayes wasn't facing the future alone, and that made all the difference. Christmas morning arrived with fresh snow and the smell of coffee brewing downstairs. Daniel woke to find Lily already in the kitchen, still in her pajamas, arranging presents under the tree with the precision of someone planning a military operation. You're up early, he said, pouring himself a mug. It's Christmas. Of course I'm up early. She stepped back, assessing her work. What time is Victoria coming? Noon. We're not due at Marie's until 3. So we have time to open presents before she gets here? Nice try. We're waiting for her. Lily groaned but didn't argue further. She curled up on the couch with her new book, and Daniel settled beside her, savoring the quiet before the chaos of the day began. Victoria arrived at 11:47, wearing jeans and a dark green sweater that made her eyes look brighter. She carried another bag of gifts, despite Daniel telling her not to bring anything. I couldn't help it, she said, setting them under the tree. I saw things and thought of you guys. Lily abandoned her book immediately, eyeing the new presents with barely restrained curiosity. Can we open them now? Let Victoria sit down first, Daniel said. I'm sitting. Victoria dropped onto the couch. Okay, now, can we open them? Daniel laughed. Go ahead. The next hour was wrapping paper and exclamations, and Lily's genuine delight at everything she received. Victoria had gotten her the entire collection of ocean documentaries she'd been obsessed with, plus a journal with a lighthouse on the cover. For Daniel, there was a high-end multi-tool he'd been eyeing for months, but would never have bought himself, and a framed photograph of the three of them from Thanksgiving. Marie must have taken it without him noticing. When did you get this? Daniel asked, staring at the photo. They looked happy, like a family. Your sister sent it to me last week. I had it printed. Victoria smiled. I hope that's okay. It's perfect. Daniel's gift to Victoria was simpler. A first edition of a book she'd mentioned loving in graduate school, something about decision theory that he'd tracked down through 3 different used bookstores. She opened it carefully, eyes widening when she saw what it was. Daniel, this must have cost... Don't worry about it, but you said it changed how you thought about your work. I wanted you to have it. Victoria looked at him, something deep and emotional in her expression, then leaned over and kissed him. Lily made gagging noises from across the room, and they broke apart laughing. They spent the rest of the morning in comfortable chaos, Lily testing out a new puzzle Victoria had brought, Daniel cleaning up wrapping paper, Christmas music playing softly in the background. At 2:30, they piled into Daniel's truck and headed to Marie's. The house was already packed when they arrived. Tom was in the kitchen basting a turkey the size of a small child. Marie was orchestrating side dishes like a conductor leading a symphony, and the boys were arguing about video games in the living room. It was loud and warm and exactly what Christmas should be. Marie pulled Victoria into a hug the moment she walked through the door. "You made it. Good. I was worried Danny would scare you off." "It takes more than that," Victoria said. "I'm standing right here," Daniel protested. "We know," Marie and Victoria said in unison. Dinner was magnificent chaos. Too much food, too many conversations happening at once, Lily and her cousins conspiring about something in hushed tones. Victoria fit seamlessly into the rhythm, helping Marie in the kitchen, laughing at Tom's terrible jokes, holding her own when the boys tried to rope her into their video game debate. After dinner, while everyone else retreated to the living room for dessert, Daniel found Victoria standing by the window, watching snow fall in the backyard. "You okay?" he asked. She turned, smiling. "Yeah, just taking it all in." "Too much?" "No, it's perfect." She looked back at the snow. "I was just thinking about how different this is from last year. Last Christmas, I worked through the entire day, ordered takeout for one, and fell asleep watching TV. And this year? This year I'm here, with you and Lily and your whole chaotic, wonderful family." She turned to face him fully. "I didn't know I was missing this until I found it." Daniel wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close. "I'm glad you found it." "Me too." They stood like that for a while, the sounds of the party muffled behind them, the world outside quiet and white. Then Marie called them back for pie, and the moment passed, but the feeling remained. The week between Christmas and New Year's blurred together in the best way. Daniel took time off, something he rarely did, and spent it with Lily and Victoria. They went ice skating, where Victoria proved surprisingly graceful, and Daniel spent most of the time clinging to the wall. They built a snowman in Victoria's backyard that Lily insisted needed a top hat and sunglasses. They had movie marathons and game nights and dinners where they all cooked together, making a mess of the kitchen and not caring. Marcus, Daniel's new apprentice, proved himself capable and eager, handling several jobs on his own with minimal supervision. Daniel found himself actually relaxing for the first time in years, trusting that the work would get done without him micromanaging every detail. "You seem different," Lily observed one evening while they were making dinner and Victoria was stuck in a late meeting. "Different how?" "Lighter. Like you're not worried about everything all the time." Daniel considered this, stirring pasta sauce. "I guess I'm not. Not as much, anyway." "Because of Victoria?" "Partly. And partly because I'm learning that I don't have to do everything alone." "That's good. You were kind of intense before." "I was not intense." "Dad, you color-coded the grocery list." "That's called being organized." "That's called intense." He flicked water at her and she shrieked, retaliating with a handful of flour. By the time Victoria arrived an hour later, they were covered in various cooking ingredients and the kitchen looked like a disaster zone. "Should I ask?" Victoria said, surveying the damage. "Probably not," Daniel admitted. She just laughed and helped them clean up. New Year's Eve, they stayed in, just the three of them, because Lily had begged Victoria to spend it with them, instead of going to some fancy party her company was throwing. "You're sure?" Victoria had asked. "It's not going to be exciting. We usually just watch the ball drop and Lily falls asleep before midnight." "I don't care about exciting. I want to be here." So they ordered Chinese food and played board games, and when the countdown started at 11:59, Lily was wide awake and vibrating with excitement. 10, 9, 8. Victoria's hand found Daniel's, squeezing tight. 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year. Lily threw confetti she'd made from construction paper, filling the living room with tiny colored pieces. Daniel kissed Victoria as the clock struck midnight, and when they pulled apart, Lily was watching them with a knowing smile. "What?" Daniel asked. "Nothing, just, I'm glad she's here." "Me too, kiddo." January brought new challenges. Victoria's company landed a major contract that required her to travel for a week, her first trip since they'd started seeing each other. She told Daniel about it with obvious reluctance. "It's Chicago, just 5 days, but I hate the timing." "We'll be fine," Daniel assured her. "I know, I'm going to miss you, both of you." "We'll miss you too, but you'll be back before you know it." The week she was gone felt longer than it should have. Daniel threw himself into work, Marcus proving increasingly competent, handling jobs that would have required Daniel's constant oversight just a month ago. Lily moped around the house, constantly checking her phone for texts from Victoria. She's working, Daniel reminded her. She can't text all the time. I know, I just miss her. Yeah, me too. Victoria called every night, exhausted but always making time to talk to both of them. She told Lily about the hotel, about the meetings, about the terrible coffee in the conference room. She told Daniel she was counting down the hours until she could come home. Home? He had asked, catching the word. Yeah, there. With you. A pause. Is that okay? That I think of it that way? More than okay. When Victoria's flight landed on Friday evening, Daniel and Lily were waiting at arrivals. Victoria spotted them and her whole face lit up, and then she was running, actually running, and throwing her arms around both of them. I missed you so much, she said into Daniel's shoulder. We missed you too. Lily squeezed between them. Did you bring us anything? Lily, Daniel warned, but Victoria just laughed. I got you a Chicago-style hot dog kit. Apparently they're very serious about their hot dogs there. Yes, Lily pumped her fist. They drove home through light snow, Lily chattering about everything Victoria had missed, Victoria's hand resting on Daniel's knee. It felt right having her back. Complete. The following weeks settled into a rhythm. Victoria started spending more nights at Daniel's house, keeping clothes in his closet, toiletries in his bathroom. They didn't make a big announcement about it. It just happened naturally, her presence becoming permanent rather than temporary. Marie noticed, of course. So she's basically living with you now, she said one Sunday, cornering Daniel in her kitchen. She still has her house, but she's sleeping at yours most nights. Yeah, and Lily's okay with it? Lily keeps asking when Victoria's going to officially move in. Marie grinned. And what do you say? That we're taking things slow. Danny, you're past slow. You're at steady. There's a difference. He knew she was right. The fear that had gripped him at the beginning, the terror of letting someone in, of risking everything, had faded. Not disappeared, but transformed into something manageable, something worth pushing through. In March, Daniel took Victoria and Lily on a weekend trip to the coast. It was Lily's spring break, and Victoria had somehow managed to clear her schedule. They stayed in a small rental cottage, walking on the beach despite the cold, collecting shells and sea glass. On their last evening, while Lily was absorbed in building an elaborate sandcastle, Daniel and Victoria walked along the water's edge. Can I tell you something? Victoria said. Always. I've been thinking about my house. What about it? I don't want to live there anymore. She glanced at him. It's too big, too empty. It never felt like home, even before I met you. Daniel's heart started beating faster. What are you saying? I'm saying I want to sell it, and I want to ask if... She took a breath. If maybe there's room for me. With you and Lily. Permanently. He stopped walking, turning to face her fully. You want to move in? I want more than that. I want to be part of your life officially. Not just the fun weekend parts, but the hard parts too. The school mornings and the emergency calls and the boring Tuesdays. All of it. Victoria, I know it's fast. I know we said slow, but this doesn't feel fast to me anymore. It feels right. Her eyes were bright, determined. And I'm tired of being careful. I'm tired of protecting myself from something that might go wrong instead of embracing something that's going right. Daniel cupped her face, kissing her deeply. When they pulled apart, he was grinning. There's definitely room, he said. There's always been room. Yeah? Yeah, move in. Be part of this. Be part of us. Victoria laughed, the sound pure joy, and kissed him again. Down the beach, Lily looked up from her sandcastle, saw them, and started jumping up and down. Does this mean Victoria's moving in? She shouted. How did you even hear that? Daniel called back. I have excellent hearing. Is she moving in? Victoria laughed. Yes, I'm moving in. Lily's cheer echoed across the empty beach. The move happened in stages. Victoria sold her house faster than expected. Some young couple who loved the renovated bathroom and didn't mind the slightly crooked charm of the place. She packed up her life methodically, Daniel and Marcus helping haul boxes, Lily directing where everything should go in their house like a tiny interior designer. The books go in the living room, she instructed, and Victoria's desk goes in the office corner, not the bedroom. She needs space to work. When did you become a decorator? Daniel asked. I'm naturally talented. Victoria's presence transformed the house. It was still small, still modest, but it felt fuller now. Complete. Her psychology textbooks lined up next to Lily's fantasy novels, her coffee mugs in the cabinet beside Daniel's, her shoes by the door next to theirs. Some nights, Daniel would wake up and find her side of the bed empty, only to discover her in the living room, working on her laptop, unable to sleep. He'd bring her tea and sit with her until whatever problem she was solving finally clicked. Other nights, she'd wake him up because she'd heard a strange noise and was convinced someone was breaking in, only to discover it was just the house settling or a raccoon in the garbage. "I'm not used to old houses," she'd say, embarrassed. "You'll learn." And she did. She learned the quirks of the plumbing, the way the radiator clanked at 6 a.m., the spot on the kitchen floor that creaked. She learned Lily's routines, Daniel's moods, the rhythm of their small family, and they learned her too, the way she needed coffee before conversation, her habit of reorganizing the fridge when she was stressed, how she'd get lost in research and forget to eat until someone reminded her. It wasn't perfect. They had disagreements about money, about parenting decisions, about whose turn it was to take out the trash. Victoria's work sometimes consumed her, and Daniel's instinct to handle everything alone occasionally resurfaced. But they talked through it, worked through it, learned how to bend without breaking. In May, on a bright Saturday morning, they were in the truck heading to one of Lily's soccer games when Victoria turned to Daniel. "I have something to tell you." His stomach dropped. "That sounds ominous." "It's not bad. At least I hope it's not." She took a breath. "My company was offered a partnership opportunity. It would mean more money, more prestige, more everything, but it would also mean more travel, longer hours, less time for this, for us." Daniel kept his eyes on the road. "What did you say?" "I turned it down." He glanced at her, surprised. "What?" "I turned it down because I spent 10 years building a career that made me successful but not happy. And now I have something that makes me happy." She looked at him. "I'm not giving that up, not for any amount of money or prestige." "Victoria, you shouldn't sacrifice your career for—" "I'm not sacrificing anything. I'm choosing. There's a difference." She smiled. "Besides, I negotiated a better deal. Less travel, more remote work, same pay. I'm not giving up my career. I'm just reshaping it to fit the life I actually want." Daniel reached over, squeezing her hand. "I'm proud of you." "For what?" "For knowing what you want. For choosing it." "I learned that from you," she said quietly. "You've been choosing Lily, choosing what matters for 10 years. I'm just catching up." In the back seat, Lily was pretending not to listen, but Daniel caught her smile in the rearview mirror. Summer arrived with heat and long days. Marcus had progressed to the point where Daniel could trust him with full jobs, freeing up Daniel's schedule in ways he'd never imagined. He started coaching Lily's soccer team, something he'd always wanted to do but never had time for. Victoria came to every game, cheering loudly, learning the rules as she went. In July, they took a road trip. Just the three of them. No real destination, just driving. They stopped at roadside attractions and small-town diners, stayed in cheap motels that Lily thought were adventures, watched sunsets from rest stops. On the fourth day, they were driving through endless farmland, golden fields stretching to the horizon, when Lily fell asleep in the back seat. Victoria looked back at her, then at Daniel. "She looks peaceful," Victoria said quietly. "She's happy. We both are." "Me too." Victoria paused. "Can I tell you something I've been thinking about?" "Of course." "I want to make this official, not just living together, but everything. I want to be Lily's legal guardian if something happens to you. I want to be listed as emergency contact at her school. I want—" She stopped, emotion catching in her throat. "I want to be her family, officially." Daniel had to pull over, his vision blurring. He parked on the shoulder of the empty highway, turning to face her. "You already are," he said, voice rough. "Both of you. You're already my family. But if you want to make it official, if you want those legal protections and responsibilities, then yes. Absolutely yes." Victoria was crying now, but smiling. "I never thought I'd want this. A family, kids, the whole domestic thing. But then I met you, and I met Lily, and suddenly I couldn't imagine my life any other way." "I love you," Daniel said, because it was true and he'd been holding it in for too long. "I love you too, so much." They kissed there on the side of the highway, Lily sleeping peacefully in the back seat, the summer sun beating down, the world golden and perfect around them. When they finally pulled back onto the road, Daniel felt something settle deep in his chest. This was it. This was the life he'd been working toward, the happiness he'd been too scared to hope for. And it was better than anything he could have imagined. Autumn came again, painting the world in gold and crimson. On a Sunday afternoon in October, almost exactly a year after that first chaotic meeting, they were back in Victoria's old neighborhood, now someone else's house, walking past it on their way to the park. "Can you believe it's been a year?" Victoria said, staring at the house. "Feels like longer and shorter at the same time." "I know what you mean." She laced her fingers through his. "That day, when you broke down my bathroom door, if someone had told me that guy would become the most important person in my life, I would have laughed. I would have run away. Why? Because I was terrified of letting anyone in, of risking what Lily and I had for something that might not work. And now?" Daniel looked at her, this brilliant, stubborn, amazing woman who'd chosen them, chosen this life, chosen love over fear. "Now I can't imagine not taking that risk." At the park, Lily was already running ahead, meeting up with friends from school. Daniel and Victoria sat on a bench, watching her play, the leaves falling around them. "I've been thinking about something," Victoria said. "Yeah?" "About what my mom used to say, that I thought too much and didn't feel enough." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "I think she'd be happy now, seeing me like this. I think she would too." They sat in comfortable silence, watching Lily laugh with her friends, the sun warm on their faces despite the autumn chill. "Daniel?" "Thank you." "For what?" "For breaking down my door, literally and figuratively." He smiled, kissing the top of her head. "Best plumbing emergency I ever had." The truth was, they'd both been stuck before they met. Daniel in his fear of risking what he had, Victoria in her inability to let anyone close. Two people from completely different worlds, brought together by a burst pipe and terrible timing. But sometimes the best things in life came from the unexpected moments. The chaotic, awkward, impossible to plan for instances that forced you to adapt, to open up, to take a chance on something you weren't looking for. Sometimes you had to break down doors, real or metaphorical, to find what you needed. Sometimes love wasn't about finding someone perfect. It was about finding someone willing to show up, to stay, to work through the hard parts alongside you. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, you found someone who looked at your messy, imperfect life and said, "Yes, this is exactly where I want to be." As the sun set over the park, painting everything in shades of amber and gold, Lily ran back to them, breathless and grinning. "Can we get pizza for dinner?" she asked. "Again?" Daniel said. "It's tradition now. We always get pizza." Victoria laughed. "She's not wrong." "Fine. Pizza it is." They walked home together, the three of them, a family, through the falling leaves and fading light. And Daniel thought about how far they'd come, how much had changed, how a single moment of crisis had led to a lifetime of possibility. He thought about all the choices that had led them here, Victoria choosing to let him in instead of pushing him away, Daniel choosing to take a chance instead of playing it safe, Lily choosing to embrace someone new instead of resenting the change. Every day was a choice, to show up, to try, to love despite the fear. And they were choosing each other again and again in all the small ways that mattered. That was the thing about building a life with someone. It wasn't one grand gesture or perfect moment. It was 1,000 small decisions made day after day to keep showing up for each other. It was chaotic and imperfect and sometimes scary, but it was also the most worthwhile thing Daniel had ever done. And he wouldn't change a single moment of it.